Hey everybody, welcome to Meanwhile Back at the Lab with Paximus. I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for waiting. There was a bit of a technical difficulty that we were working through, so I really appreciate your patience and you guys being willing to just kind of still be community and be able to talk with each other in the chat. Hopefully, you're all doing well, whether it's the morning, evening, or somewhere in between. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited, guys. I've been looking forward to this conversation with Laura for quite some time, actually. You know what? The funny thing is that when I first got started into live streaming, I was just I kind of was to myself for the most part. And the very first person actually who reached out to me was Laura Byrne. So a lot of this kind of is into credit to Laura because she's the one who reached out and said, "Hey, just a couple of people told me about your live stream, and I just wanted to say hello and all that." And I was like, "Wow, that's really kind of her." And so I reciprocated and went and joined her live stream, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I still every now and then pop in. So um, it's really great that we have the chance to kind of have that community. And I've been able to have like this podcast series getting to know other live streamers, so a lot of it is to Laura's credit here, just by simply reaching out, so I really appreciate that. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and talk with none other than Laura. Hey Laura.
Hey,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. That was a really nice intro. Like, I'm glad I like started this all off because I've seen all the other interviews you've done. I think it's a really nice idea.
Mm,
Um, like as probably a lot of like my community knows, I really want to like fully integrate like all of the study streamers. Make us more of a community and
mm,
um make sure like we're all in contact. We all know like what everyone's doing and
yeah.
because everyone's super nice and like we're all here to do the same thing. We've all got the same goals to study.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And just as a quick shout out to the people in the chat, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm terrible with like the chat sometimes. But Scooby Life, thank you so much for being here. Alex plays Sarah Oxford, who's actually part of your live stream. Laura.
Yeah.
Crash Hermit, who actually we are going to be interviewing next Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. So Crash, thank you so much for being here as well. Elizabetta, thank you so much for being here. Padmini, um, oh Laura, I saw you in the chat just now. uh,
Yes, I was like, we're gonna be here, guys. just
yeah.
just bear with us.
No, and I appreciate you doing that too. Because I was like, I don't know. Let me see. No, if I carry my one, I'm trying to like figure
Yeah.
out all these troubleshooting things. Debs, thank you so much for being here as well. Q, thank you so much for being here. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of go straight into this conversation, Laura. And again, I just I probably sound like a broken record, but truly, I'm very thankful that you took some time to hang out with me, have a conversation. Oh, and Mindspaces is also in the chat, which we just finished talking with her yesterday. So I know you and I briefly talked about Mindspaces on your chat, that she's got like journaling and things like that. And we talked about that yesterday. So that was a lot of fun. But um, so for the people who may not know you, Laura, um, whether they're listening to this and watching it live, or maybe it's going to be later on, on different formats, for podcasts. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, before I introduce myself, I'm just gonna shut my door, so give me two
Yeah.
seconds.
Oh no, go for it. And this is all it's funny, guys, because like the live streaming process, it's like a hit or miss sometimes, but thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, thank you guys. Sorry, I just think Evie was being a little loud because the landlord just got back. So
Oh, gotcha.
But right, yes. Yes, so I'm Laura, as Paximus introduced me. I'm a physics student at the University of Exeter in the sort of southwest of England. I'm kind of near a beach. It's very nice.
Oh, nice.
I'm from England, so I'm from Birmingham in England, so right in the centre in like a busy city. Um, yeah, I'm in my third year of university. I've just started my master's in physics. I'm sure we'll probably talk about my master's a little bit. But yeah, general overview is doing stuff to do with gravitational waves. Um, and yeah, I've been study streaming for 2 or 3 months now. I haven't really been keeping track.
Hmm.
But yeah, it hasn't been long for sure.
Yeah. And so within those 2 to 3 months that you've actually been live streaming, you started off, how did the process start for you? Did you start off pretty slow and then because it did pick up real fast in like a hurry? You have like 700, nearly 800 subscribers already, which is fast. It's just awesome. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Um, yeah, so it was a very quick process because I think it was during December when I found out with Study With Me live streams. I think Crash Hermit was actually one of the first ones I saw
Mm,
after I sort of found the kind of like the big ones, like I don't know, like Ari and Study Vibes, those kind of ones.
yeah.
Um, and it was because I had exams in January, and with COVID and doing completely online learning and everything, I was really struggling with feeling motivated to revise and everything. So I was really at the end of my tether, so to speak,
Mm,
and I was just like, I really need like some sort of help. Um, so I don't remember exactly how I found Study With Me Lives, but they were such a help during that really intense exam period. And I was also working part-time as well, and I was like unable to go home, so I was like basically on my own. I was like, oh, I'm having such a tough time.
mm-hmm,
And Study With Me Lives like really helped during that period because it made me feel less lonely.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's like the same environment as like when you go to a library.
Yeah,
It's you're working with other people, and it was the same kind of environment, but with less anxiety about COVID.
yeah.
Um, but then unfortunately, the novelty of those wore off for me very quickly, and it was by like end of January, and I was like, oh, these aren't working for me anymore.
Mm,
I was like, why don't I try my own? Um, and then yeah, I think we just hooked my phone up. Um, all I bought was a microphone and a ring light, and
mm-hmm,
I think we just started, and
mm.
that's how we're going.
Well, I mean, you're doing really well with the Study With Me stream, and I'm kind of curious, what's your approach? Because I know for me, and I may have already said this before on a previous, whether it was a live stream or podcast, same difference really, but um, the approach I take is when that people come into the live stream, I say hello to them as if it were a library. Like when people walk into the library, you don't ignore them. You you say hello to them. If they're friends of yours or whatever. So I take that approach because I care about the people that are part of the live stream. But I wonder what your approach is. Do you mainly say hello to people? Do you just focus for the time that you're studying and then during the breaks talk, or what's kind of the mindset there?
I think so. So when I first started, since I had a quite a small community,
Mm,
um, like I basically always have like my stream and my chat open. So I've
mhm,
got a laptop and a monitor. I always have that on my laptop, and then I work mainly on my monitor.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, whenever someone came in, like I'd say hello. If they were regular, I'd be like, "Oh, nice to see you back." Or if they're new, say like "Welcome." Like sometimes I'd ask like if they knew how these things worked. Um, Luckily now, since sometimes we have like 30, 40 people watching, and
mhm.
I won't get any work done if I keep doing that. And I think
Right.
when you're on like when you're transferring from like having like a regular 10, 15 people to suddenly a lot of new people,
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep in mind that like you do have to do your own work. Um, I do try and say hi as much as I can, but I'm very thankful to all of my mods,
Mm-hmm.
especially Sarah and Elizabetta, and Nadi and Des as well, because they will also kind of do my job and say like hello and welcome, and they'll explain things on my behalf, which has been
Mm-hmm.
a great help because like I want people to feel welcome. Like I don't want them to like come in and say hi and
Mm-hmm.
just be ignored because
Right.
it's not that nice really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's of no fault of the streamer, especially if they've got like thousands of people watching. They're not going to be able to say hi to everyone.
Right.
Um, so I think it can be difficult to multitask, so to say, and sometimes I do miss it. You get too involved with in your work and you miss things, and that's why I'm very grateful to my mods. I'm sure Elizabeth and Sarah are here, so big thank you to you guys.
And I it's funny because at one point there was, I think it was during the time, maybe November, I think, of 2020, where like there was just a lot of people online during that time. I think I saw like maybe 20, 30 people in my live stream, and I was starting to realize the same thing. Like, I think that's why when you do have more subscribers, and it's funny because they there's some subscribers, um, who they're there the whole time. They won't say a word, but they're there and they're supporting, and studying with you. And then there's others who are a little bit more active on the chat, and it's hard sometimes to, like you said, multitask. It's hard to say hello and keep a chat going while you're trying to get work done, because that's really the goal, that you're trying to encourage other people to study as well. But I'm kind of curious with there's a certain question that a lot of live streamers have, not study streamers necessarily, but a lot of people who come into your live stream, the question that of how many hours, like, it seems so, like, I think that's one of the most main questions that I get, or that I see, is how many hours, and why should we dedicate so many hours to studying? And what's your take on that? What's your mindset on the amount of hours, or is it sessions, or what kind of thing works for you and for your live stream?
That's a really good one, and I think I have spoken about this very briefly on my streams before, but I think there is a big problem with kind of this, like the constant feeling of having to be productive all of the time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like it is a big result of capitalism, and it is, there's a lot of live streamers, and I'm not going to name like any people in particular, but there are many who do like 14, 15 hours a day, and I think it does kind of perpetuate this idea that to be successful, you have to work for like 15 hours a day. And I think that is like a really toxic mindset.
Yeah.
And, you know, with studying, like it totally depends like what you're doing and how you're studying. So like there are some days where I do 10 hours,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I make sure to have longer breaks. I make sure to have like lunch breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't it's really difficult with being a streamer because um more hours gets more views and more subs, but I don't want to promote working for like 12 hours a day
Right.
because it's just not healthy. It's promoting like burnout, um
Mm. Yeah.
and generally like even with the Pomodoro technique, you do sort of peter off towards the sort of like 5 hour mark, and I find it the same.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel pretty burnt out around the 5 hour mark. um I think so a lot of the streamers I see who do these super long hours, I think the kind of studying they're doing is, it must be kind of low energy. And by what I mean that is probably like flashcards and going over things they already kind of know.
Mm.
Um, because I find I can do that, for hours. Like I can, I'm learning Italian at the moment, and I find that
Mm.
really not taxing at all. I could do that for hours.
Mhm.
Um, but, sitting down and doing physics problems, I can't do more than like
Right.
3 or 4 hours.
Right.
It's so draining. So I think
Mhm.
for those streamers who are doing super long hours, and when I do super long hours, um, I when people are like, "Oh, it's really late here, but I want to carry on," I'm like, "No," I'm like, "Go to bed. You do not need to be here for my whole stream."
Mhm.
Like, I want to stream for long hours so I can kind of provide this study stream service to many people throughout the world because,
Mhm.
I have people over in India and then I have like people in America, and it's such a big time difference. Um, but yeah, I think it's a really difficult with, because if you only stream for like a couple of hours a day, um, not as many people come to your streams. Whereas like, it's, I mean, I guess it's not clickbaity, but yeah, put in like, 10 plus hours in your title. But it works,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I do have this big thing about like, this kind of like toxic productivity. Um, because I don't think it's viable, and I think, you're kind of wasting your time if you are revising for that many hours a day, because I just don't think you're doing pretty productive work.
Mhm. But
Um,
so I'm kind of curious also then, like on your live stream, I know for me, I tell people, there's been days where I actually do more work related stuff, not necessarily study. And I tell people, hey, I'm studying for half this time, and then for the other half, I'm just doing work. I'm doing like, time management, planning, prepping. I'm putting together some PR stuff because I work for a school and doing kind of the PR for the school. So I make it really well known to the people who are walking into walking, who are coming into the live stream. And so I'm curious, do you tell them that as well, or do you just kind of go about your business and just do the studying, whatever it is? Because I can only imagine you get so many people asking the same question over and over. What are you studying? And sometimes it's even in the title, and you're still saying,
oh
like
yeah.
like it's in the title, guys. But it makes sense, because you may not be studying, you may be doing some, prepping or planning of some sort. So what kind of responses do you give in your live stream for that?
So I think when people ask what I study, I generally, especially if they're like new, I tend to automatically go for um they're asking like what do I study, as a student.
Mhm.
Um so like, I always say physics masters, but like if it's, I don't know, maybe someone I know, so a regular, I'll say like what I studied during the last session. But I do tend to, whenever the chat is quiet, I'm like, whenever I start a break, I'm like, oh, how did everyone do? Like, do we want to get a forest? Like, I just did some Italian, for example.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not as explicit as what you probably described, but it is more. I do say to people like, you know, I will split up. If I'm doing like a 10-hour stream,
Mhm.
the first hour tends to always be admin, so it tends to be like checking emails, figuring out what I need to do for the day, doing like bullet journal things, lots of just like little things that I need to get done.
Mhm.
Um, I always have like post-it notes everywhere, and I'm always like, okay, what post-it notes do I need to get rid of and get done?
Mhm.
Um, so that tends to be like the first session. And yeah, I think people do kind of forget that like I do a lot of volunteering work as well,
Mhm.
and some of my time is on stream. I tend to do that as well. Um, and I do like I tend to find that running my stream I also class as work. So um, I will say talking to you to organize a collab, that to me is work. So
Mhm.
that would also come under like doing that during the study stream.
Mhm.
So when there's no way I can do physics for 10 hours. Like that is that is impossible unless I'm super, super interested in it.
Well, for
And even
starters,
then,
just to your credit, the fact that you can do like hours of physics, I mean, I could barely think about physics for 10 minutes. So it's amazing. I admire the fact that you're in that field, and it's really awesome that you're doing that. But yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to point
no,
that
no.
out.
Yeah, I think like I do really enjoy I do really enjoy doing physics, and some bits
Mhm.
are easier than others.
Mm.
Um like a lot of the time, like going through lectures takes a very long time, but it's not as much effort as say doing like questions.
Mm.
Like if I'm working through questions or like working through like past exams, especially if I don't know the content very well. So say like the stage I'm at the moment when I'm studying for my exams in May, I'm at the point where I've gone through all the content, but I don't know it very well. So each question is such an effort because I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, at this moment, doing, 3, 4 hours of physics is very draining because I
Yeah.
don't know the content very well.
Mhm.
Whereas, hopefully the day or so before my exam, doing like a 2.5 hour paper should be less effort because I know the content, and
Mm.
that works with anything, not just physics. Your anything that is going to be easy.
Right. So how did you kind of like how did you get involved, or where did the interest for physics really come from? How did it start for you? Was it early on, in your life, or was it when you got into like maybe general education at college, or when did that happen? And so essentially, why physics?
I get this question a lot, and I always try and have a response prepared because, unfortunately, it's pretty cliche, and my answer is going to be like I have liked it since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have like one vivid memory from when I was like 11 or 12, and I remember I mean this is gonna make me sound like such a nerd as a kid, but I mean I was like the quiet nerdy kid. But I remember I remember reading the Wikipedia on the Standard Model, and I actually like took notes when I was like 12. I don't think I understood any of it. I'd be surprised if I understood any of it at that age. But yeah, that is like my vivid memory. Unfortunately, like I wasn't like people are always surprised to hear me say that I wasn't very good at maths when I was in school.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't until I was around I'm gonna say like 15 when things started to make sense a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I was never very good with like the mental maths. Like even like I am 20 years old and I can't do my times tables. And people are like, but you do physics. I'm like, yeah, I don't use a calculator. It's like I like at this point, like I will use a calculator to do like 50 minus like 27 because I just can't do it in my head.
I can't.
Um,
So.
I think like the math skills I use now are such different skills to the maths you do in school.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I struggled with maths so much. I struggled with like spelling as well. I still struggle now.
Mm.
Um, and like I was meant to have like a dyslexia test, but like that never happened.
Mm.
But yeah, I think a lot of the time, one of my maths teachers when I was in school said this tends to happen a lot with um, the the like younger children of that year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a June baby, so I am like tend to be one of the youngest in my year,
Right.
um, as opposed to like people born in like November.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know, for those of you who are not from the West, school runs from September until like like July. Um, so yeah, if you're between like June and August, like you're the youngest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just I have no idea if it works differently elsewhere. Um, so yeah, I tended to be the youngest, and apparently, like when you're young, the difference like 7-8 months makes is a lot developmentally.
Mhm.
So when when you're, I don't know, like 5 or 6, and you're learning like maths and reading and the things you learn then, there can be a very big discrepancy between the older kids of the year and the younger kids, even though it is only like a couple of months.
Mhm.
Um, it is, in context with when you're only 7, that's, that's a lot of time.
Mhm.
Um, so my maths teacher said it could have been that, which is why I wasn't very good. And then I don't know, things just started to make sense, and I did lots and lots of practice. And like even now, like I'm not inherently good at maths.
Mm.
Some people are, but like for me, it takes a lot of practice. Um, some things I'm not very good at, other things I'm better at.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, people ask me that all the time, and like how do you be good at maths? And I'm like, practice. Treat it like as you would a language, like a new language that you're learning. You're not gonna say, if you learn in French, you're not gonna know French straight away. You're gonna make mistakes. Treat maths the same.
Mhm.
And that's what I always tell people who struggle with something like maths.
Well, and I'm kind of curious then. This is more of a little bit of a tangent, if you will, but the idea of homework. Um, I think there's a lot of students and even educators who, especially even parents, actually talk about homework being kind of a problem sometimes, or if not most of the time. How do you approach that idea of homework? Like, are you for it? Are you against it? Do you believe that practicum, because math being how difficult it may be, and for you, like, you still enjoy it, but you have to work at it, you have to practice at it. So how do you feel about the topic or the concept of math or of homework?
That's a really good question. Like I've not done homework in years now.
Mm,
Um, yeah. I think I think it totally depends on the subject and the homework. Like I remember when I was in school, like I mean, this is just a me thing, but I always
mhm,
left homework until the last minute.
mm.
But like I'm also trying to get an ADHD diagnosis, so that's probably why. Um, but like I know that there are there's a lot of things in school. There's a lot of things to deal with, like you're growing up.
Right.
Like puberty, for example, is a big one. A lot from when I was in school, like I think my biggest concern was just like friends, to be honest.
Mm,
Um, I think maybe just because I think maybe the slightly younger generations than me, I think there's a lot bigger emphasis put on exams now.
mhm,
Um, like in the UK, they've basically um, got rid of coursework, which is like stuff you do like in your own time, like at home, for example, that goes towards your grade. And the UK is pushed for like only having exams.
mhm.
Um, I just realized I went on a tangent. But yeah, I'll get back to the question.
Oh no, that's fine.
Um,
I mean, please continue.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so I think it depends. I think there's a lot of homework that I remember that feels very redundant and did not help me at all.
Mm,
Um, but I also I don't know. I think that's a really good question, but I think there's a lot of children out there, like you never know what someone's home life is like.
mm,
There are plenty of kids out there who got help from their parents on homework, and like
mhm.
I never got help from my parents. It was all done by myself and with the help of like Google. Um,
Right.
and I think it is a bit unfair to like I homework is probably good as long as it's not like a compulsory thing. I think perhaps it would be a better idea to give the opportunity for kids to do practice questions if they're struggling,
Mhm.
but like don't force them don't force them to do it. You know, kids are in school for like what, like 8 hours a day.
Right.
Expecting them to do more like on the weekends
Hmm.
is like, you know, it's unfair. And you do so many subjects when you're a kid, and you get like homework from like every teacher. I think it's just, you know, kids need to be kids before you get to uni and you realize that your whole life is studying.
Yeah, and I think for the what, the 4 maybe even plus years that a person does go to uni, like um I think that's a great time to be more concentrated on what it is the focus should be. With like junior high, for example, or high school, that's the time to explore different electives, different
Mm,
possibilities, core classes that you need to take, and just say like, okay, clearly I'm not good at this, but I'm good at this, and then I ask the question of homework because I did a my master thesis on the issue of homework, and so I
mm,
really do try and learn as much as I can from others about the subject matter of how it affects them, how it affects the people around them, what their awareness of, because not everybody has the ability to even do homework, believe it or not. Like, there's some
mm,
kids who don't have computers, who don't have the resources that they need to actually complete their homework, to print things out. So that's why I was kind of curious on your take of that issue, but maybe going back a little bit into the issue, or not issue, I'm sorry, but the topic of you being in physics. I'm kind of curious to know maybe your level of concentration. You briefly talked about that you're in physics, but could you remind me again what your concentration is specifically?
so when I finish my degree, it will just be a master's in physics.
Mm-hmm.
So there won't be any specialty attached to my degree, but we do get optional modules to take from second year onwards, and that's kind of when you start specializing.
Mm.
The second year didn't really matter. I actually did an elective in philosophy. So yeah, an
Oh.
elective is just when you go and do a course or like a module that's not in your department.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did a philosophy of science module because I thought if I'm going to explore, because I really wanted to do some philosophy, and I was like, I haven't had the chance to do it. Um, let's do it in second year when it doesn't really matter as much. And like it hasn't affected me at all
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like in terms of what I know. Um, but yes, so my third year is when you really kind of start to specialize more. You know, you like I picked my master's project.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I am more towards theoretical physics. So those are my like um, my elective, not electives. Those are like my optional modules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm very much like do lots of maths.
I mean, and I can understand why that would be just a lot of work, and even in 3 hours of study. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could really do that. Like in high school, right? I didn't even take physics. I took government. Like
Mm.
that was the thing. And so no, but I truly admire the fact that you're in that field. And it's really wonderful to see more people kind of going into the STEM field. And so I wanted to also just acknowledge the people that are in the chat right now. If you have a question for Sarah, we're actually going to do a Q&A time with Sarah. So if you have a question, please go ahead and put question in all caps, and then everything else in lowercase, and then just ask us maybe some questions that you have for Sarah, or I'm sorry, for Laura. I keep saying Sarah.
You've done too many
Laura, I'm
interviews.
so sorry. Oh my gosh.
You're okay.
For Laura, I don't know where I got Sarah from, but for Laura, so please, if you can do that, that would be great. Um, and Debs was like, Laura, Laura, Laura. Um, so yeah. Anyways, but going back to physics, in STEM specifically, I noticed that there is kind of a more representation of males in STEM, and but recently I even did like a quick search through it, and I noticed that there was more females that was actually going into the STEM field. What have you noticed about kind of that uprise into that surge into that field?
It's at least I can only really speak for the UK, but it has definitely increased. Like my university is pretty good for like the gender gap in science. So I think a third of like my year are female or non-binary, which is really great, and that is above the percentage of people who do A level physics.
Mm,
So that's like the exam you do between the ages of 16 and 18.
mhm,
Um, so I think the amount of women taking A level physics is around somewhere between 20 and 25%, I think.
mhm,
Um, so like it is way better than it used to be, for sure. But I think there is still like a big issue, and you don't really realize these issues until you're a bit older and you look back on the things that have been said to you or been you know the things that have happened, and you're like, oh, maybe that's because I was a woman in physics.
mm. And
But it is definitely
mhm.
improving.
And what kind of career, or should I say, what kind of opportunities are you looking towards, maybe right after graduation or even now? What are some areas of interest for you?
um so I do want to carry on with research, and I do
Mm,
want to go do a PhD, but I think
mm,
the kind of end goal, as to say, is to work within science communication and science advocacy. So that's uh, making science more accessible to the general public. Being like a kind of media presence, which streaming definitely helps with that.
right.
Um, and but also I've kind of um, I've done a lot of work within like diversity and inclusivity in science,
Mm-hmm.
and that's generally that's like what all my volunteering work um, is. So
Oh, I see.
I sit on my department's inclusivity committee,
Mm-hmm.
and we discuss how to make physics more inclusive, basically. And I am volunteering for a couple of social medias. I'm going to plug them because why not?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
Women Doing Science.
Mm,
Women Doing Science, they're quite a big one. And there's also Neurodivergent in STEM, and I work with both of those social medias. And they
mm,
promote people like, very, very diverse people in science. They're a lovely community. And then I've also started working with the Institute of Physics, which is the UK's like big organization that they basically accredit all of the physics degrees in the UK.
mm-hmm.
Um, and they actually contacted me and said, like, we love the work you do. Do you want to be part of a working group for uh, making physics more inclusive? So I've basically been able to speak to like the biggest physics organization in the UK and basically
Wow,
say like
that's awesome.
these are the things. So I think somehow I got into that path, and I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I think like I try to be very neutral on my streams, but like whenever I have something, whenever something happens, I can get a bit confrontational just
Mm,
because it's kind of my job to call people out for these kind of things and
mm.
to educate people on, how to be inclusive. Um and any problematic behavior or words.
So, I'm kind of curious to know a little bit more about the things that you do see where
Mhm.
you feel like you need to be a little bit, as you mentioned, a little bit more confrontational, not for the sake of being with malice or anything, but to just educate, you know, people that are in your stream? What are some of the issues that you've been seeing?
Um, it's mostly being like as like presenting as female.
Mm,
So like I was born female and I do go by she they pronouns. Um, and I think yeah, a lot of the time it's not even like these big things. Like I do get the occasional ones, which like I'm not going to repeat any on
mm-hmm,
on here, but very inappropriate ones. They just get banned or whatever.
mm-hmm,
But it's more like the small kind of problematic behaviors that kind of get on my nerves a bit more because like I feel like I have to address it, but then people tend to get very defensive. Um, and it tends to be you get a lot of ones like, oh, you're so pretty, or like or like you're very sexy, and I'm like, I'm just trying to study. Like it is uncomfortable. There's a stranger saying it, and then there's like a friend saying it.
right.
And yeah, it tends to be I'm trying to think. There's just so many, and I don't know, it's comments that just make you feel just vaguely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm,
um and even like some of my mods have had it towards them. Really feel for, because like I'm here, I know what I got myself into.
mm-hmm,
It's absolutely unacceptable to do it to my mods. Like they're
right.
doing me a favor, leave them
Yeah.
alone.
So as much as they're
um
looking out for you, you're trying to also, help them out, and just be, you feel like you need to kind of stand up for them a little bit.
Yeah, one of the ones I've got quite often is you should smile more. Um,
Hmm.
and that tends to be like I feel like basically like every woman I know has experienced like a man going, "Oh, you should smile more. You look prettier when you smile." And it's like I am not here to satisfy the male gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like it is frustrating. I think, I have, experienced, like sexual assault and sexual harassment,
Mm.
but I have never experienced so much misogyny than I have on stream. Um, and unfortunately, I think I just can't call out everything because
Mm.
I people get very defensive, people get very confrontational, and it's not fair on everyone else who wants to study.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have taken to the approach of just ignoring things now. Um, and either I just hide or time out
Mm-hmm.
or give a warning, or my mods do it. Um, but yeah, it's been. I am sure my I'm sure my some of my mods are in the chat and can and can vouch for what I'm saying, and
Mm-hmm.
what they've seen. Um, and yeah, like I've spoken with some of the other streamers who present as female. Like Study with Melly, for example. I spoke to her,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, she was like, "Yeah, I get the same thing." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, and I think that that is a problem. From what I've seen so far, this is just my observations as a male. But when I go into a live stream, and I look at some other male live streamer, I don't see any comments, nowhere near
Yeah.
that. Nothing has to
Yeah.
do with their looks. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. It has all to do with questions about studying, research,
Mm.
study methods. What's your take on, color psychology? What is your take on, current issues, that are happening in, the educational realm? It's all content related. And then
Yeah.
I've had particular, conversations, one with you, and then a couple with others, in the past podcasts, where it has nothing to do with the content, and it's all about the look. And
Yeah.
I'm here to say that that should stop 100%, because I mean that's where the mindset is like we're commenting on a person's appearance or their look, and that, I mean, did we forget why we're here? Like, we're here to study, and and if a person like yourself is willing to be brave enough to go on YouTube, for example, and to provide some sort of service, if you will, of helping others, of encouraging others to study, then that's what we should be focusing on. So the question should
Mm.
be, what is the best study method for you, Laura? Like, why do you choose this study method or this approach versus, like, well, you just look amazingly hot, and
Yeah.
like that comes across, and I totally get where you're coming from. That comes across in a way where it is super disrespectful. And
Yeah, it's so rude.
it is.
I'm like,
It's
"I don't know you," like
like, if you heard it from, like, a friend who you really well know, and you're like kind of just, that's been your banter since you were like children or something, okay, fine.
Mm,
But from a complete stranger, like, we don't want to promote that at all. Like, essentially is what I'm saying. We should really take a hard look at how we approach people in general, and be respectful and
yeah.
mindful of the fact that we need to watch what we like. Think for just a second how you're about to say something, That's all we're asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to promote, like, asking people's pronouns more normalized,
Mhm,
like, I go by she, they pronouns. A lot of my friends go by they, them pronouns. Like one of my mods, Sophie, goes by they, them pronouns. But a lot of people refer to them as she because Sophie is a female name.
mhm,
Um, so I've tried to make that more normalized within my Discord. Like I make sure people to like say their pronouns. And like I'm always happy to explain pronouns. I know there are language barriers, and like I understand that. I'm always happy to explain.
mhm.
Um, I also wanted to comment on like, calling, people pretty and that. I think compliments are fine, but compliments should be directed at things that the person themselves can affect. So I don't mind people saying, "Hey, that's a really cute skirt," or "Hey, I've got a lot of comments on like the pigtails, which I feel really happy about because I'm like they look so cute. I love them. Um, or like when people are, "Oh, your makeup looks nice today." Things that I can affect and that like I can do. Like I choose what to wear. I choose how to wear my hair. I choose how to do my makeup, for example.
Mhm.
Like I choose how my background looks like. Um, and I like those compliments generally, as long as they're not like creepy,
Right.
they're fine. But when it's just like generic, like, oh, you're so beautiful, that's not really okay because like that doesn't like I haven't done anything in that
You're
respect.
like,
Like
I'm just
I
sitting
didn't
here.
choose yeah, like I didn't choose what I look like. So like I'm happy for people to comment like, hey, your nails look nice, or like, anything that that I have control over.
I see.
Um
Yeah. Yeah.
and that may just be a me thing. Like I'm not going to talk for like all women really.
Mhm.
But yeah, when it's just generic, like, "Oh, you're really sexy," or it's like just being very inappropriate, it's just so uncomfortable, and it really
Oh
takes me
yeah.
out from like reading the chat. I'll be so distracted by that comment and thinking about like, do I warn? Do I time out? Do I ban? Um,
Mhm.
that it's like I lose my train of thought, and it's not fair on everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's not like you can never compliment them, but it's just be aware of what you're complimenting. Um, and I don't mind if people are like, yeah, that's something nice that you're wearing, or
Mhm.
um, because like I chose to wear that.
Right.
I didn't choose to like have this facial structure.
Yeah. It's not like this morning you woke up and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be this person today. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, and I totally get it. But at this point, Laura, thank you so much for just speaking with us a little bit about kind of these issues, and also the kind of work that you're doing in physics. I think that's wonderful. I really do. And if we can kind of like, are there any questions for Laura at this point? Please let me know in the chat. I think I don't know if Debs is still getting some questions or not. But I'm gonna actually see if I can find my chat box here, because
Yeah, I'm just
I
looking
don't
through it
know.
myself. Yeah, I love yeah, Sarah and Elizabeth are like yeah, even getting a bit angry at like, me talking about
Right.
all these experiences.
I'm just trying to now kind of follow the chat, because I've been away from the chat at all, at the whole time.
Yeah.
Been so yeah, it seems like we don't have any questions as of right now. But um yeah, and I think the kind of the kind of work that we're doing as study streamers, like I think we all encounter these different um basic questions, like, hey, what are you studying, what are you why are you doing 10 hours or so, something like that. But I think what I really appreciate about you, Laura, is the fact that you reached out to me, you reached out to many other live streamers, and I think you've, in my opinion, started something really great, where you simply said, like, you don't have to be isolated. And I think with this whole lockdown that happened last year, and you talking about kind of how people can get lonely, the goal wasn't to social distance, it was physical distance. And I love the fact that you reached out and said, "Hey, hi, my name is Laura. It's good to see you. I'm another, study with me streamer, and just wanted to say hello." I mean, that for me was very kind of you to do that, and that made me want to actually go see other study streams, and kind of develop this community with them. And study with Melly, she was on the podcast, and I got to know her and do a collab with her. And same thing with like Sarah, and with A Studies, and and Crash Hermit, who's going to be next week. But I just want to thank you for literally reaching out in that way, because that was really kind of you. And I hope in the future we'll have more opportunities to do like collabs, and maybe even return to the podcast and talk about another topic or something like that.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. Like, I don't know, I I have no idea why I reached out to everyone. Like, I don't know if it was I don't know if it's like because I work in such I volunteer with things that are a lot about like reaching out to people. I
Mm,
don't know, I really love like the sense of community. I just like getting to know people, I think. And yeah, I just think, like Crash, for example,
mm-hmm,
helped me out so much when I started streaming. Like, he gave
mm,
me so much advice. And like some of the other streamers as well. But yeah, big thank you to Crash, because he was like the main one to like whenever I had a question, he would be there. And I think it was kind of like giving back to the community, but not in a way where I felt like guilty. It was like I wanted to,
mm-hmm.
and like I want to meet these people. And you learn like so much. Like, I've learned so much about um like different cultures and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like, I had a collab with Noir every day.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely try and reach out to her if you've got the time, because she's
Yeah,
great.
that would be great.
Um, and yeah, she's lovely. She's doing like pharmaceutical sciences in Belgium, and
Mm,
like she knew so much about like the process of um, making like the COVID vaccine, and it was so interesting.
wow.
And like I don't know anyone in pharmaceutical sciences, and
Mm-hmm.
it's such a nice way to get to know people. And like I want to do more collabs, but I'm like, oh, it's so hard to find the time sometimes.
Right.
Um,
And with
but yeah,
your
like
new
I'm
schedule, it's probably picked up in a different way. Like, having to, like, even for us, we were, at first, we had the opportunity, and then just over time, it just got a little bit trickier because, well, and plus, you're in England, I'm in California. So,
yeah, yeah, it's quite a time difference.
right.
But yeah, it's mainly been in the UK, things are opening back up again. So
Hmm.
I've gone back to work, and like opening week has been absolutely insane. Like I yes, I was going to stream today and then do this podcast, but
Hmm.
I was so exhausted from last night that I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, because I was like meant to be in work for around, I think I was meant to be in for 5 hours yesterday. I ended
Hmm.
up doing overtime and I did over 9 hours, with only a 15-minute break. Um,
Wow.
and like I was like so exhausted. um, I think I did an hour last night on stream where I just did some Italian and I basically said like I'm really sorry guys for like not being here at the time, but unfortunately work is work. I'm hoping it'll calm down.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was, the first Saturday of all the pubs being open,
Right.
everyone wants to drink. And yeah, I think we had nearly 2,000 orders. Um, and it was pretty insane. So yeah, and I feel bad, and I'm sure there'll be many people in the chat saying like, "Laura, don't feel bad," and everything, and everyone's already said that, and I'm like, but I do, like, I want to get back to my regular schedule, and even if I don't feel bad, like, I do still need to study, like, I have exams coming up,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I'm hoping it's just like at work we're just so understaffed right now. Um, like a lot of people got laid off when we went into lockdown
Hmm.
around like Christmas time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just been a bit mad really. But yeah, this is a nice like this podcast is such a nice change of pace as well.
Mm.
Because I think, many of my community are so they're always like, Laura, the timer's over, start the session. I'm like, let me talk. I want to talk.
Well, and I kind of, I think that's really where this was like birthed from, because of the fact that there's only so much time that you get to hear from other study streamers, and you don't really get to hear their thoughts, their perspective on things. And me being an educator, I actually want to continue learning from other people, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to connect with you, to connect with other people, to learn from you guys, so that I can kind of just continue learning. I mean, the whole point of being a teacher is that you're a lifelong learner, and you're
Mm.
hopefully encouraging others to be that same way. There are a couple of questions that did come up, so I have one for you, Laura. Let's see. It says, "How would you explain feminism to individuals from different male-focused cultures, and how would you explain it respectfully?"
Oh, what a question. Who said that question? I love it.
I don't know who it's from, um, but let's see. Let me see if I can track it down, because Debs was the one who is getting the questions to me.
Ah, nice. Yeah, no, that is a fantastic question.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not too like clued in about cultures which are sort of male focused. To be honest, like most of the West is, to be honest.
Mm.
Um, I do know there are a couple of countries that are actually um, they're actually like kind of I don't know what the word is, but like females are more like highly regarded um, within those cultures, but those are like a minority. I think oh, what a question.
Oh, and I think
I
that
think
question was actually from Debbie. That was from Debbie.
nice.
Yeah, that was the question. Yeah, that's for sure.
um I think as long as the person is like open-minded, I think open-mindedness is really all you need. Um I haven't really. I do always try and be as civil as possible,
Mm,
but it is very hard when I think the issue with speaking to some men about women's issues is that they invalidate what we're saying. So like I will say like, I have experienced sexual harassment, and they'll say like, yeah, but I don't do that. And that is the kind of response that I tend to get quite a lot. Like I'll say like, yeah, I am a victim of sexual assault, and they're like, yeah, but I haven't like raped someone, for example. And it's like, congratulations. Like that is not the point. Like you
yeah.
are. I find a lot of men tend to invalidate what we're trying to say. And the thing is, like, the patriarchy affects everyone. um it affects men too. And I think one of the other things is that we try and speak about women's issues, and men are like, well, why don't you talk about men's issues? And it's like, yeah, like I want to. Like the patriarchy perpetuates this idea of like masculinity, like men can't show emotions, and like men can't wear skirts, men can't wear makeup, men can't wear like nail varnish. And that comes from the patriarchy. you know um and I think that is like, that tends to be the most common response I get. And I think, that's such a hard question. I definitely think you just need open-mindedness and to listen to each other. So I think explaining feminism, I would also I would make it more about the patriarchy, and I would talk more about like the patriarchy is a negative thing for basically everyone.
Hmm.
um, you know, we all get affected. Like, there are men who have experienced sexual assault, and a lot of the time they don't want to come out for fear of shame, and they don't want to admit that that happened for the idea that they'll be seen as weak.
Mm.
um and there are plenty of men's issues, but unfortunately they all do come from the patriarchy. It's just that I focus on women's issues because I present as a woman. I have experienced things, I can talk about them. And also, it is like the main issue in at least the West.
Hmm.
um it tends to be, a statistic came out in the UK that said 97% of women have experienced sexual harassment.
Wow.
And it's things like being in a club, like being groped in a club, um being catcalled, like just being afraid of walking home at night.
Hmm.
Like even in my city, like we had sexual assault cases on campus. Like that's how terrifying it is. Like something like that can happen on campus where there are so many students, and that it should be a place to be safe. um it's all these small things that I don't think, unless you've experienced it, you wouldn't think
You
that
don't
that
know
is a
what it's
thing.
like unless you've gone through it. Yeah.
Yeah, like just like walking, even in the daytime, like I will not walk next to a van. And
Mm.
I know, like there are a lot of, like, I don't drive, but I know there are a lot of women who, as soon as they get in their car, they check the back seats and then they lock the doors. um
Wow.
and like there's a lot of women who, if there's a van parked next to the driver's seat, they will get in from the other side, because there are cases where someone will be waiting in a van to like pull them in when they try and get into their car.
Hmm.
um and yeah, it's all these like tiny things that you would never think of. And unless you've experienced that that fear when, like, I've walked home in the dark before and it is terrifying. I'm always like, what friend can I call? Who can I tell
Mhm.
where I am?
Yeah.
Put my location services on just in
Oh
case,
yeah. Mhm.
that kind of thing. And it's not fair. And that's why I focus on women's issues, because unfortunately right now that is the biggest issue. And like, you know, I do care about men's issues for sure, and
Mhm.
I do want to work on that. But also, if you are a man and you invalidate women's issues, like, at least the men will come up with like, oh, but what about the men who are falsely accused of rape, or who are um who uh yeah, who like, suicide in men is such a big issue. But like,
Mm.
why don't they you know um advocate for them? Like,
Mm.
it seems like they just use it as an excuse to invalidate women's issues, rather than actually doing something about it themselves.
Mhm.
um but I just think, like, for me, I want to work on women's issues. I mean, we need to dismantle the patriarchy, basically, and then we'll solve everything.
Yeah, but I can see that you're very passionate about standing up for that, for sure. And
Indeed.
so thank you for also just because I don't know how comfortable you are about talking about the assault, but thank you for saying that, and being brave enough to say that. And I apologize. I'm very sorry to hear that that happened. Um, but yeah, just want to thank you for being so open with us on that particular question. There's another question that comes from Crash. Actually, I know that this is a question from Crash. Do you see yourself branching out into any other kind of content?
Yes, I do want to start doing some videos. It's just it's just trying to find the time. I think uh what I want to do in the next month or so is do some videos of me studying in different locations,
Mm.
um, and have them as videos rather than a live stream, because obviously I
Mm-hmm.
can't talk in a library. Um,
Right.
so I was thinking of, like, there's some really nice places on campus that I can go
Mm-hmm.
and just film myself for a couple of hours, because I want videos to be there for people who, sometimes you leave things till last minute and you've only got a couple of hours to, like, get out some work, and sometimes you do just have to work for a couple of hours. And I want, like, people to have that opportunity, that if they enjoy studying with me,
Mm-hmm.
that they have those, ones that are a bit more calm. There's, no talking, there's no breaks. It's just, working for a certain amount of time. um so those are in my, like, to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
um Otherwise, like, I've thought about doing like, physics based content, or like, I want to stay generally around studying. Maybe pull in some vlogs in there, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with COVID, nothing interesting is happening right now. Like, or you want a vlog from me walking, like, from getting up from, like, a meter away to my desk, like, it's not gonna be very interesting.
You're like, take a trip with me,
um
guys, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're here.
yeah, it's like, it's gonna be like a 10-second blog.
I mean, you
um
could, spread it out a little bit, but um, yeah.
yeah, I think maybe doing, like, I was thinking for the videos where I study in a different location, doing, like, a walk to campus, for example, could be fun.
Mm,
Just walk and talk, like, relax with me before we study for like 3 or 4 hours.
nice.
um like, something like that. Yeah, I may do physics content. I may do, like, here are some study tips or something.
Hmm.
Or maybe take people through, like, how I actually study, and, like, take people through, like, the notes that I have. Or even do some, like, bullet journaling videos, because I've suddenly got into bullet journaling and I love it.
Oh, and Kate from Mind Spaces was actually on yesterday and talking a little bit about that. So, I don't know if you've subscribed to her channel, but she's
I
been
have.
talking about that for a little bit.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'll definitely like have to watch some of her videos. Maybe get in contact and be like,
Yeah.
"Help me. How do I bullet journal?"
Oh, and I'm sure she would be totally open to it for sure. Another question is from QNVK. The question is, what do you do when you get burned out on a specific subject, and how do you go back to it?
Um, yeah, I always if I'm feeling burnt out, I just take a step back, and I think it totally depends what I'm feeling burnt out from. So
Mm,
today, like I took a break from streaming just because um
mm-hmm.
I was just I don't think it was even burnout. I think it was just generally being exhausted from the week because like I was in work 5 days this week.
Right.
Um it was basically like get up, go to work, come back, eat food, stream, go to bed, and like that's been my entire week, and that is not something that is sustainable at all.
Right.
And I could tell that from like how I felt today. I was like, wow, I was like, I cannot stream today. Um like I need a break.
Right.
But yeah, what I tend to do is I tend to do something that like because a lot of time when you feel burnt out from something, like you still want to be productive, but you
Mm-hmm.
just can't face whatever it is that you're trying to study. So I just try and be productive in some other way, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even have to be a big thing. It can just be like doing your laundry. Like I don't know about you, but like I get so behind on my laundry sometimes.
Yeah.
I've just remembered that I'm literally in the middle of doing laundry today that I had forgotten about.
See, and that's
um,
productivity too. I mean, like you trying to get some of those
yeah.
things, those tasks done. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be about the study aspect. I think, quite honestly, our
Mm,
brains can't function that way if we're constantly studying because the brain needs to relax at some point or another. Um,
yeah, like relaxation is productive, and I think a lot of
yes.
people forget that. Like you need to relax, and the a
Mm-hmm.
thing I've started doing is making a thing called a done list, which is rather than having a to-do list where you list all the things you need to do for the day, you write down everything you've done in the day. And it could be something tiny, like I made a really nice breakfast today, or I did laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Even just I got out of bed. Um, you know, anything. Like I know there are probably a lot of people here who struggle with mental health, and sometimes getting out of bed is is very difficult, or
Yeah.
just eating a meal is difficult, brushing your teeth is difficult. And like
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. Like I have had, many struggles like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I try and take those small victories, like, especially on the days where I don't feel great. Um,
Yeah.
like today, for example, like I didn't feel particularly great this morning because I was like, I'm so exhausted from work. But
Mm-hmm.
then I was like feeling bad because I was like, I need to study for exams. Um, it's like I got up, I was like, I'll do my laundry, and then like I did my makeup, and then like I put on some nice clothes, and I was like, you know what, this is like a good day. Like I've turned my day around, and it was just relaxing, but doing things I wanted to do.
And it's amazing how I think in the first maybe month or so, I think everybody, well, and I only speak, I think, for maybe a smaller community, not online, but just within my area. Like the students that I work with, they kind of took it as an excuse to like, oh, we can shut down, play video games, just kind of like not really do
Well,
much,
yeah,
and
the
and
first
and I think that's
first
actually
lockdown was so
backwards.
great.
I mean, I totally get the idea of taking rest though, because that's purposeful. That is being productive towards a greater good for yourself. But to like be in bed and I understand that there's depression, anxiety, panic attacks out there. People that deal with all these things, and sometimes it's hard. But it's amazing how when you just decide, okay, I'm gonna go step by step. I'm gonna put on my shoes. I'm gonna put on a nice T-shirt or something like that, and just if I have to be at the computer, I'm gonna dress as if I'm going to school or going to work, and that
Yeah,
really does change your mindset. It helps you move
yeah,
forward a little bit and kind of get out of that funk. Some days you just need that extra rest, and you're like, no, I think today I need rest. and it's just
Yeah.
learning how to like gauge gauge your body basically, you know. And
Yeah.
so I think it's okay in your instance, Laura, like you to be saying, saying like I need to study, but I need rest more than studying
Mm.
right now, because then I'm no good to my studies or to anybody else for that matter,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like taking one day out from studying when you're burnt out is way more productive than trying to study
Mm,
because you're just gonna feel more burnt out,
yeah.
and you're just gonna end up doing less and less study. You're gonna like end up hate studying,
Yeah.
and you don't
And you'll
want
you'll
that.
resent
Like,
it actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. Like you have to take at least one day, and one full day where you're not even like nowhere remotely close to the idea of studying. Like do something
Yeah.
outdoors, go walk, with the dog, or if you have a cat or something like that, and just play with the cat, or do connect with friends, things like that. I think those
Yeah.
are really helpful to your health.
Mm. I think
There's
streaming.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, I think streaming has also really helped me with that because I used to be such like, I would kind of procrastinate all day. I'd like sit at my computer, pretend I was doing work, and then it would hit the evening and I'd actually do work.
Mm,
And it never felt like I had proper rest. But now
mm-hmm,
with streaming, like I have a dedicated amount of time to work, and then
mm-hmm,
outside of streaming, I basically don't do any work,
mm-hmm.
unless like I absolutely have to.
Right.
And I always take so usually I take a Thursday off. Obviously this week has been very chaotic. But yeah, generally like my schedule is, I stream every day,
Mm-hmm.
some days shorter than others, and then take Thursday off. And on that Thursday, I do not touch my desk. Like I go out, I get coffee with friends,
Good.
like I watch a movie in the evening. I
Yeah.
think that's so important. Like if possible, do try and have a day where you just don't do anything remotely work or study related.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, you need to have that time where you're just hanging out watching like a movie, or, maybe reading a book for enjoyment, if
Mhm.
that's really,
Yeah.
if you're an avid reader and you really love, reading, like, read a book that you haven't had the time to actually read, or go play some sports if you can, or go run, actually running's really helpful. And I think you even
Yeah.
mentioned that you sometimes, after your live stream, go for a quick jog and then come back home.
Yeah, I do. It's yeah, it's obviously been kind of hard with work, and I mean,
Hmm.
luckily now that we're in daylight savings time,
Right.
it's lighter by the time I finish my stream,
Mm.
so I can actually go on a run.
Yeah.
Um, but like I do have like chronic joint pain, so it's
Oh.
very like pain dependent. Like I'm not technically supposed to be running, but it's so good, and like so many of my friends are like, "You enjoy running?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's amazing."
Well, because
um,
it does kind of get the endorphins running, and
yeah,
it helps with even stress.
yeah. Like it's like sometimes if I'm feeling stressed, like I'll put a really good like playlist on, go out for a run, and just not think.
Yeah,
It's so nice.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
even out in the rain, like the rain is even better. Like
Oh,
out for a run in the
I used
rain.
to I used to do that a lot actually. I used to go out for a jog in the rain, and that was like probably my favorite time. I don't know why. It
Yeah.
was just the smell of the rain, and just I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
so nice.
Yeah, exactly. It was really
Yeah, it's
good.
love it. I love it. Yeah.
There's another question, and the question comes from Elizabetta, and the question is, "What do you like most about streaming? What makes you happy when you stream?"
Honestly, I enjoy talking to all you guys. Um, as you can probably tell, like I'm such a talkative person.
Hmm.
And like I don't think I'm extroverted, but I do really enjoy talking.
Hmm.
And like it's so nice to meet so many different people, of like all ages, like all over the world. And like I've learned so many, little intricate things about like culture, about different subjects.
Hmm.
I think it's such a good opportunity to really branch out, Um, because I feel like a lot of people don't really meet many people outside of their own culture or even their
Mm.
own area really.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite lucky to go to university and there's a big international community. I live with, Chinese flatmates and
Hmm.
I think, but even now, like I've met so many different people
Hmm.
from, all over the world. I've got a couple of people helping me with Italian, Elisabetta especially. Um, and yeah, it's like it's making connections. Like I really can't say that studying is my favorite part. Like talking is always gonna be my favorite part, to be honest.
Mm.
Like
And
maybe I should just be a vlogger. Maybe maybe I'm in the wrong
it was,
the,
I
the wrong
was about to
streaming
actually
community.
say, you know what, if you did some vlogging, that, I mean, that kind of, you know, that kind of works. So if you have like a lot of thoughts that you wanted to like put out there, like that, vlogging could possibly be a
Mm,
way to do that. So yeah.
yeah.
And there's a one more question, same from Elisabetta, but what will you do when you I'm sorry, what will you do to celebrate 1,000 subscribers? Because it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're gonna see it
Um,
happen. So what will you do when you get to that point?
um, I'm gonna buy cake for a start. The cake will only be for me, but you can all watch me eat it on stream. That's great. Um, I've got a nice confetti overlay on my stream now,
I've seen it
which
actually. It's
yeah, yeah, I used it for 700. It's so cool. It
yeah,
completely destroys my like CPU, but like it looks cool.
yeah.
um,
Oh man.
I think I'm gonna see how like money is, but like I do want to buy a camera.
Mm,
And I don't think I will do that like as soon as I hit 1,000, but it will be within that kind of time span.
mm-hmm.
Um, like I've had plenty of donations from yourself mostly, which is like a big thank you. Like it's gonna, go to a camera, so
Mm-hmm.
I can actually use my phone, which would be nice. Because sometimes I'll be on stream and like I'll be doing some like admin stuff, and it's like we've sent a code to your phone to be able to log in. It's like,
You're like,
oh,
oh, really?
great. I'm like, oh great, I can't do that until after the stream now.
Right.
Um, and like even stuff like Forest, like I'm so sad that I can't join in Forest a lot of the time.
Mm.
And I'm like so many of you have such nice trees, and I'm like, I want to grow these trees.
Like even Elizabeth was saying like a cake making streaming.
A cake making streaming. That
That'd
could
be
be fun. I'll
interesting.
try and get Evie on stream, but she's a bit elusive. It's really annoying. I gotta so like while we were having some issues with setting up, I was like, Evie came in, and it was only me in the house, so she was like whining a little bit for the landlord, and to like comfort her a bit, I got her onto the bed, and I was like, oh, she's in perfect position to be on camera. And then as soon as I started, she
She
left, and I
left.
was
Right.
like, Evie, like you're so smart. She always knows when she's on camera, and she leaves immediately.
Yeah. You know what? The same thing happens with my dog. I have a dog named Linus, and like I'm
Mm.
like, dude, Linus, you have a whole bed to yourself, and he'll like go on the floor away from the camera. I'm like, oh come on,
Yeah.
everybody wants to see you, and I'm really
Yeah,
trying to make
literally.
this work, and you're not working with me. Come on.
Yeah. I'm like, Evie, what do you want? Like, please come on camera. Everyone loves you.
Like I'll get you treats. I'll get
Yeah.
you an extra portion of your food for your dinner. Like
Yeah.
what is it that you want?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I know everyone loves Evie, so I'm always determined to get her on stream. And I'm like,
yeah.
how do I stream for 10 hours a day? And yet she comes in the times when I'm not streaming.
And it's not a question, but it's just a comment from Kwok Comedy, who was in the chat. I don't know if they're still in the chat, but it said no questions, but really enjoying this frank conversation. Thank you, Paximus and Laura Byrne. So I just wanted to point that out
Oh,
in case you didn't see that in the chat. But
yeah, no.
yeah. So Laura, I really appreciate you just taking time, because I know you have a busy schedule and with work and everything, but I really want to say thank you so much for having a conversation with me about these things that we were talking about. And I mean, I really admire the fact that you're in the field of physics. I think that's wonderful, and really wish nothing but the best for you in that. And hopefully we can do some sort of collab in the future. I would love to do that if you're up for it.
Definitely, like all the people I've collabed with so far, I'm always like we will do it again, like as soon as we're all free.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely. Like I've especially this is such like a nice different thing to do because it's like I'm always so talkative meeting new people. Like there's so much to talk about.
Hmm.
Um, and like I've done a couple of streams where we study stream together, but then
Hmm.
you only have like 10 minutes to like get into a conversation with this person you don't know,
Right.
and it's like you're like rushing to try and get everything in, and there's like never enough time. um and so I'd love to do like a podcast like this again, but I'd also love to do more of like a casual thing, because I'd love to know more about you. um and like have more of a two-way interview rather
Yeah,
than
that
one
would be
way,
fun.
because I think that would
Yeah.
be really cool. Because I think like we need an interview from you now, because you're doing all the interviews to everyone else. We need to know about the interviewer rather than the interviewees.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be awkward. I'm just gonna tell you right now, because I'm not very good at talking about myself as much. It's been hard, because I almost feel like that's when I first started, that was the expectation of a steady streamer who needs to just kind of, during the breaks is what I'm talking about. So like,
Mm.
I'd be like, oh well, look at the pen, like I'd just be so
Look
awkward
at
that
Linus, yeah.
so for any awkwardness ahead of time, I just want to say I apologize.
That is okay. I mean, like, I'd love to know more about like your like career and like education and like what you do. So I
Mm,
think education is like so important.
yeah.
Like as I said, like I'm interested in science communication and
Mm,
inspiring like the younger generations, especially. Like I've done like science festivals where I've met like kids and showed them experiments, and I've like tutored before.
yeah.
I think it's so important, especially for physics, to sort of get them at a young age and be like, wow, look at this really cool thing in
Yeah,
science.
exactly. I mean, that's my hope, is that we see more people interested in those field in the STEM, really. I mean, just I think part of education is like I get to see junior high students, because that's mainly who I work with. So with junior high students, I kind of get to see them in a state of wonder. And I love the fact
Yeah.
that they're just like, oh, well, oh, this is so cool. I never thought that this would, they don't connect the dots really until you do it for them, and they're like, oh, I have an interest in this. So that's kind of,
Mm.
I think that's why I enjoy that age group, because and plus they're a bunch of goofballs, so I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's always so important to like hold on to that like wonder about things as well, because that's where curiosity comes from. Like even
yeah.
now, like you take me to like a particle accelerator, I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. I have no idea how it works, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Laura, I had a great time, and I want to thank everybody who was part of the chat. Thank you so much for your questions for Laura, and I really hope that you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day. But we are gonna go ahead and wrap up our time, and of course, on this live stream, you know how we do it. We do it slightly different, but for those of you who were in the chat or just joining us, a lot of Laura Burns links are in the description below. If you check out the description below, you'll see that there's a lot of links for Laura, her live stream, where you can subscribe to her channel. Even I believe she has, is it? I think it's Binder, or I don't know how to pronounce that, but Binder, I don't know. and then the Discord server as well. There's Discord, and you can catch Laura on Instagram as well. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, always remember, be kind and rewind. Have a good one. Hadouken!